I woke up that Monday morning with a mix of excitement and disbelief. It was surreal that our last-minute vacation plan had actually come together. Lucas, that's me, and my 5 friends were headed on a wild adventure, taking a spontaneous break from our work routines. A private jet for a day? Who would have thought? We all converged at my place and the air was electric with anticipation. The drive to the airport was a blur of laughter, stories, and shared dreams. As we stepped onto the tarmac, the sight of our small, slightly shabby private jet gave us a reality check. But hey, it was the cheapest option, and we were living large for the day. Once aboard, the interior was a world apart from the exterior. Luxurious leather seats, elegant fittings. It felt like we were living a celebrity lifestyle, if only for a few hours. Popping a bottle of champagne was the ceremonial toast to the beginning of our grand adventure. The plane roared to life and the feeling of takeoff was exhilarating. The first few hours passed smoothly. We were all on cloud 9, literally and metaphorically. Then a subtle shudder rippled through the plane, followed by the ominous hum of turbulence. None of us were strangers to flying, so we laughed it off initially. But Ben, my friend, broke the tension by shouting for us to look out the window. Our faces turned pale as we stared at the wisps of smoke trailing from one of the engines. Panic surged, but the pilot assured us he had it under control. We needed to land urgently, though. The unease grew as we looked out and saw nothing but the vast open ocean below. The oxygen masks dropped and the peeping alarm sent my heart racing. My panic was palpable. Then it happened. A deafening boom, like a nightmare exploding. Everyone was hurled to the side as the plane tilted toward the abyss. The plane nosedived toward the ocean, seatbelts unfastened. Desperation filled the cabin as the cold reality of our situation sank in. I gazed at my friends, trapped, injured, and bloodied. No seatbelt on. All except Ben, who was securely buckled into his seat by the window. Our cries and screams were swallowed by the chaos. The plane collided with the water's surface. Darkness swallowed us whole, and the world turned into a violent, surreal dance of water and wreckage. I woke up, disoriented, blood trickling down my forehead. The back of the plane was submerged. Panic surged as I remembered the urgency to escape before drowning. I staggered towards the emergency exit, glancing at my lifeless friends. Their stillness was haunting. I screamed at them to wake up, to no avail. Desperation pushed me to Ben. His lifeless face brought a gut-wrenching realization. No one had survived the crash except me. I wrenched open the emergency exit, water rushing in. I gasped and swam upwards, finally breaking the surface. A bitter cold embrace greeted me and I gasped for air, relief mingling with terror. The plane was gone, the ocean stretching infinitely. I clung to the debris, praying for rescue, the sounds of my own rapid breaths echoing in the desolate expanse. Hours stretched, and exhaustion consumed me. My body shivered uncontrollably. The darkness below held mysteries and fears I dared not entertain. Thoughts of sharks and creatures lurking in the depths clawed at my mind. Just when my hope was dwindling, the thump of rotors reached my ears. A helicopter, a lifeline from the abyss, descended toward me. It was a beacon of salvation. The pilot's quick thinking had called for help as soon as he had seen the smoke from the engine. I was lifted from the water's grip, my grip on the debris loosening. The helicopter's winch pulled me up, saving me from the clutches of despair. In the hospital, I was treated for hypothermia and head injuries. Physical wounds would heal, but the trauma of that day would linger. The memory of losing my friends, the terror of that endless ocean, haunted me. It's a burden I carry, a reminder of how fragile life can be, and how a single moment can change everything.
Story 2. The Hijacker. Monday morning arrived, and I rose from my slumber with a sense of excitement and purpose. A business trip to Norway was a dream assignment for a photographer like me. After a swift morning routine, I was on my way to the airport, the anticipation of capturing breathtaking landscapes fueling my steps. My flight was at 10 a.m., and I was ready for the adventure that lay ahead. Boarding the plane, I settled into my seat, greeted by the promise of a 5-hour journey. With a movie queued up on the screen, I felt at ease. A familiar routine of travel calming my nerves. The plane ascended smoothly, and for the first hour, everything was mundane. Then my attention was caught by a hooded figure to my right. He appeared to be muttering to himself, something that stirred a whisper of unease within me. His actions seemed peculiar, and I found myself stealing glances, trying to decipher the situation. A hint of discomfort settled in the pit of my stomach, but I brushed it aside, convincing myself that it was merely an innocent conversation with a loved one. Returning my focus to the movie, time drifted by. An hour later, I turned my gaze back toward the hooded man, only to find his seat vacant. Alarm bells rang in my head. Panic spread as I realized he had not returned from the bathroom. My heart raced, and a knot of fear tightened in my chest. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air from the front of the plane. Dread gripped me as the panic of the other passengers became palpable. I sat frozen, caught in a nightmare unfolding before my eyes. The man with the hoodie reappeared, his intentions clear as he brandished a gun. The terror was real, and my mind struggled to comprehend the unfolding horror. His voice pierced the air as he shouted, "This is our time! We're not leaving this airplane!" Pandemonium erupted as passengers cried out in fear. I was paralyzed, unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The man stalked down the aisle, waving his weapon and fanning the flames of panic. Amid the chaos, the man's screaming subsided, his presence fading toward the back of the plane. The silence that followed was eerie, save for the distant sobs of children. But the respite was short-lived. The man sprinted back toward the cockpit, pounding on the door, threatening the pilot's life if they didn't comply. His manic desperation was palpable. My heart pounded against my ribs as the tension thickened. The plane was a powder keg of fear and despair. Abruptly, the man veered toward the middle of the cabin, his anger evident. In a sickening turn of events, he grabbed a woman. The gun trained on her. The cries of passengers filled the air as their pleas fell on deaf ears. Amid the chaos, a man sneaked up behind the crazy hooded guy. An ex-military man, his determined gaze fixed on the assailant, moved with calculated precision. In one swift motion, he swung his laptop, connecting with the man's head. The gun fell to the floor as the assailant crumbled. The woman was freed, her terror-stricken face a stark contrast to the stranger's unwavering resolve. The ex-military man wrestled the attacker to the ground. The tense struggle played out on the airplane floor, a battle between the forces of chaos and valor. The man's grip on the gun was lost, and he was subdued, his consciousness slipping away. A collective sigh of relief washed over the cabin as the pilot announced an emergency landing. The plane touched down, and the police were ready and waiting. As the handcuffs clicked onto the man's wrists, the tension in the air began to dissipate. He continued to scream and threaten, but his power was diminished. As the day drew to a close, I reflected on the roller coaster of emotions that had played out before me. The threat had been very real, and the courage of one man had altered the course of our fates. The ex-military man's actions had saved us all from a sinister plan. Gratitude for his bravery mixed with the lingering echo of the trauma that had unfolded at 30,000 feet.
Story 3. The Crocodile. This story has been rewritten to a first-person perspective for education purposes, but it's all true. All passengers on this plane sadly died. Let me take you back to that chilling day, August 25th, 2010. It's a memory I'll never shake off, no matter how hard I try. I was on a LET L410 turbojet aircraft, one of those passenger planes operated by Philair in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Our destination was Bandundu Airport, but none of us could have foreseen the horror that awaited us. The day started like any other flight, nothing out of the ordinary. The plane was getting ready for a round-robin domestic trip from Kinshasa. Stops were planned at Kiri, Bokoro, Semendwa, and then Bandundu. We were 21 souls on board, just regular folks ready to reach our destinations. As we approached Bandundu Airport, everything seemed pretty routine. The plane was getting ready to touch down, but then chaos erupted out of nowhere. Panic gripped us all, and it came from the most unimaginable source. A crocodile. Yeah, you heard that right, a freaking crocodile. One of the passengers had managed to smuggle this wild creature on board in a duffel bag. But it wasn't content with its cramped confinement. Just moments before we were supposed to land, that crocodile made its move, escaping from its bag, terrorizing us all. The madness that followed was like a scene out of a nightmare. The flight attendant bolted towards the cockpit in a blind panic. And guess what? The rest of us, including yours truly, did the same. Can you blame us? That crocodile was out there, the sheer terror of its presence pushing us to the brink. But little did we know our instinctual scramble towards the front was the beginning of the end. Our scramble for safety wreaked havoc on the plane's balance. We shifted the center of gravity so drastically that the plane lost its control. Panic had turned into chaos, and chaos had spiraled into disaster. It happened so fast, and before we could even grasp the situation, we were plummeting toward the ground. The crash was an earth-shattering collision, a gut-wrenching realization that this might be the end. The plane careened into a house, just about a kilometer shy of the runway. The deafening crash echoed with the cries of those who knew their lives were about to be snuffed out. I couldn't believe my eyes. It felt like the end of everything. But somehow, against all odds, I survived. I was the sole survivor of that catastrophic crash, the sole witness to the unbelievable horrors that had unfolded. The aftermath was a bleak scene. 19 lives were lost instantaneously, and only one other person and I were taken to the hospital. Amidst the wreckage, there was no fire, no flames consuming us, but there was the haunting realization that death had danced so close to us, brushing past our souls. The Congolese Ministry of Transport initiated an investigation, desperate to unravel the truth behind this madness. It's a memory that's etched into my mind, replaying like a broken record. The survivor's account shook the very core of the investigation. Yes, it was true. That crocodile had sparked a panic so intense that we'd rushed towards our doom. The flight attendant's retreat and our instinctive follow-through had sealed our fate. That crocodile had survived the crash too, if you can believe it. But its journey had ended with a blow from a machete, a brutal end to an unexpected visitor in our lives. So that's how it all went down. A crocodile, panic, chaos, and disaster. It's a story I'll never forget. A moment in time where a bizarre turn of events cost us dearly. It's a tragedy that will always haunt me, a day when a simple flight turned into a nightmare beyond imagination.
Story 4. Friday was finally here, and the excitement bubbling within me was hard to contain. A vacation with my husband Leo was long overdue, We'd been counting down the days, and today was the day. The start of our 2-week getaway to the island. As we wrapped up work, the anticipation was palpable. The clock ticked toward 10 p.m., the magic hour when our flight would whisk us away. Home sweet home was our next stop. A quick shower, and we were on our way to the airport, bags packed and spirits high. Checking in, my heart raced with the realization that our adventure was about to begin. Boarding the plane, Leo and I found our seats and settled in. Leo hadn't been on a plane for 3 years, so there was a mix of nerves and excitement dancing in his eyes. The hum of conversation and the shuffle of passengers filled the cabin. Leo and I chatted, soaking in the atmosphere. We looked around, observing fellow travelers as they located their spots for the journey. It was all so normal, so ordinary, until it wasn't. My eyes landed on a couple of few seats to my right. Something about them felt off, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. The man wore a jacket despite the heat outside, and he seemed to be avoiding attention. His cap was pulled low, hiding his face in shadows. The woman beside him stared at the floor, disconnected from the world around her. They didn't talk, didn't exchange glances. It was unsettling. As the flight took off, an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. I shared my unease with Leo, hoping to shake off the strange sensation. Leo, though, seemed unperturbed, lost in the sights beyond his window. Resuming my reading, I tried to distract myself. But 2 hours later, the woman's voice cut through the air, announcing her intent to use the bathroom. What followed was something that sent shivers down my spine. As she began to rise, the man's grip tightened on her arm, yanking her back into her seat. The man's eyes bore into hers, his lips sealed shut. Fear clawed at me. What was happening? My heart raced as I recounted the ordeal to Leo. Panic twisted in my chest. We didn't know what to do. Confront them? Alert the crew? With the plane set to land in just half an hour, a chilling thought crossed our minds. What if the man was dangerous? What if he had something horrifying planned? The minutes stretched, each tick of the clock echoing in my ears. Leo and I exchanged glances, our eyes flickering to the man and woman. It was a silent vigil, the tension as thick as fog. Eventually, the plane's wheels touched the ground, and a wave of relief washed over us. But our journey was far from over. Retrieving our bags, we kept a discreet eye on the couple. They made their way to the baggage claim, and we followed, curiosity and unease propelling us forward. As the man and woman reached the security checkpoint, my heart raced. The security guard asked the man to remove his cap. The world seemed to hold its breath as the cap came off. And then, silence. The security guard's demeanor shifted in an instant. With a chilling calmness, he drew his gun, demanding the man lay down. My heart pounded in my chest as the situation spiraled beyond anything I could have imagined. They arrested him, and the reality of it all hit me like a tidal wave. The man had been wanted for murder, a dangerous fugitive attempting to escape his country's grasp. The woman beside him, as it turned out, had been kidnapped just a month prior. Leo and I stood there, stunned by the sinister web we had unwittingly stumbled into. Our vacation had morphed into something out of a thriller, a twisty tale that tested our nerves and instincts. As the man was led away in handcuffs, the weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. Justice was served, but the sinister echoes of that flight would linger.
Thanks for watching the Haunted Sketchbook. Be sure to check out any of the videos on screen right now if you're planning on not sleeping tonight.